Hey guys, Josh from Solution Based. Continuing with thermostats, we're going to look at a boiler now. Boilers are problematic for some folks because of their simplicity and their inability to do power stealing thermostats in some ways, especially people that want to put Nests or Lyrics or smart thermostats, any kind of power stealing thermostat, but one especially that does not take batteries. A boiler presents a certain set of challenges. So I'm going to go over what the difference is, why this is going on with a boiler first, and then we'll kind of flesh out some of those differences. So unlike a furnace or an air handler that you have power sitting at R, okay, and then you're sending that out to the places that it wants to go. You want to call for heating, you're sending power out to W1. You're not doing that with a boiler in most cases. In most cases, there is just a made switch in there in that line, okay? And what that means is that in most boilers, you just have two TT wires, and all that does is dry contact close, and that's what brings on the boiler, okay? There's no actual power involved. So here, if you're operating on TT, you're running R to TT, and you're running W to TT, okay? And what's happening is this is just closing between here, okay? All it's doing is making contact, and that brings the boiler on, which is perfectly fine and perfectly simple, and it's been that way forever. The problem lies is that when you go to want to use a power stealing thermostat, there is nowhere to get power because this doesn't need it and doesn't have the functionality to do that. So what you end up with is somebody calling me and saying, hey, I can't get this Nest to work on my boiler system. And I say to them, well, let's go downstairs and look at the control. I say, do you have these terminals on your boiler control? And they say, no, it just says TT. And I say, you cannot get that power stealing thermostat to work without doing some additional work. And the additional work looks like this. One, boilers usually only have 2 wires. You need at least 3 to use a power stealing thermostat. You're going to need to provide 24 volts from somewhere to power that power stealing thermostat. Now, some boilers, even ones that have TT, have a source of, all boilers have a source of 24 volts in there that you can steal and then send to that thermostat. That's a little complicated and a little risky for a homeowner to be doing, but there is a source in a boiler of 24 volts that you can in fact get to, but it's pretty advanced to do that. If you're trying to do a power stealing thermostat with an existing boiler that has a TT terminal on it, and that's what's turning the boiler on, I see you're going to need a technician to help you get through that. As far as just installing a thermostat, this is as simple as it gets. Take a picture. You're only going to have 2 terminals in this whole thing that are going to run the thermostat. You're going to hook those 2 terminals up. You're going to make sure to turn the boiler off, pull the base plate off, put it back on, hook the 2 wires up, set it level, and then put the face on and program it for hydronic heating. And it is super, super simple as far as wiring goes. When we get into setting the base plate and all that, they're all the same as far as that goes. And it has its pitfalls, but it's relatively simple. Couple of anchors, and you screw the base on level, and then push the thing on there. The number one thing that you don't want to do with the HVAC thermostat is touch R and C together and have exposed wires. In this case, all you have to worry about is exposed wires. Touching R and W together, your 2 wires together, is not going to cause any kind of short in this particular type of system. All it's going to do is spark a little bit sometimes or not, and it's going to make the relay in the boiler chatter, which isn't great for it, but it's not going to break anything immediately. So still best to turn the system off when you take the base plate off and put the base plate on, because that's the most common time where the wires smack together. Better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so super simple as far as that goes. Power stealing thermostat, we have found out we have a problem with if it's got a TT system. In order to add a power stealing thermostat to a TT system, basically what you have to do is add a transformer and power that thermostat separately, and you would come down here and you would go to R and C from here, and you would go R and you would go C, and that's how you would power the backlighting and all that stuff. And then you would have to wire separately you would put your, in a Honeywell, you would put your toggle switch down, and then you would, so that you would have, then it would be two separate wires, and then you would run your power to here, and you would run your heating, your one side of TT to R and the other side to W. So a little advanced to do that. There's a little bit going on there. You know, you would have to run a wire, you would have to run 110 volt to a transformer, and then you would have to do all of this control wiring. I think that's a little bit much for a homeowner to be getting themselves into. If you're, you know, an electrician, or, you know, you're really, really into it, you could probably get it done, but I'm gonna leave that. I'm just kind of fleshed out what it was. I purposefully kind of didn't go too deep into that because I really don't want you doing that. And if you're advanced enough to be able to do it, then you're advanced enough to be able to look past me and find out the ways to do that. One way that it can be done is sometimes you'll have a zone valve board on a multi-zone boiler, and those actually allow for power stealing thermostats. You'll see RWC right in the board, okay? Those often do have 3 wires going to the thermostat. When you pull it off there, I want you to grab the inside where the brown wire is and look and see if one of the conductors is wrapped back, because 2 are going to be tied into the thermostat, and there'll be 1 still left back wrapped in there. If you have that, then you can, in a relatively simple way, hook up that power stealing thermostat by using your R and your C terminals right from the board, the zone valve board, to R and C on here, and then hook your white up to white, and it will actually work perfectly fine. We have Takeo zone valve boards with power stealing thermostats all over the place. They do a fabulous job, and they will work readily, and often have 3 wire to them. Some of the times have 3 wire already run to the thermostat. So if you have a zone valve multi-zone system in your house on a boiler, and you really want a Nest or a power stealing thermostat, you can look into this and see. You look at your zone valve board, if you happen to have one, and you pull the cover off and take a look inside there, and if you see this RWC, then you definitely are in business. So you need RWC in the board, and you need a 3 wire going up to the thermostat, and if you have those things, then you can get that done by hooking these 3 terminals to these 3 terminals, respectively, R, C, and W. Again, you're flirting with danger with this one. Converting from a battery-powered 2-wire thermostat to a 3-wire power stealing thermostat is probably not for most people, and usually is going to end up with a service call. So if you're going to attempt that, make sure you go beyond this and get some good information. Make sure you're looking at your board, look at your specs on your board, make sure you pull out the instructions or look it up online, make sure you have all your pieces in order, and maybe even consult with your HVAC guy. If he's, you know, worth his salt, he'll give you his 2 cents and a little bit of pointers to get you there without ending up with a service call or your system down. Thanks, guys.